And so this is not an easy concept to grasp initially, but I think it's a very important one. And so therefore I might even pin this because it is important to sort of understand the rest of the videos. Because you need to know that all states, all 50 states, the military, and all territories that take federal IDEA special education funding must follow the federal IDEA. That is the start. That is the foundation. That is the baseline, okay? No state in this country can do less than what the federal IDEA says. No state. I'll say that again. No state can do less than the federal IDEA. Okay, you sit there and you go, well, what do you mean by that? Can't do less. That also means that they cannot impede or make the process more difficult either. Okay, even within their little nuances in their state code, they can't do that. That would be offering less than what the federal IDEA says. Now, in my videos, every once in a while, you'll hear me say that you need to check your state code for specifics. Now, you sit there and you go, well, what does that mean, James? Doesn't that mean that the special education law is different state to state? No. Guys, if you've ever played the game Monopoly, there's a defined set of rules for Monopoly. But at the same time, there was only one Monopoly when I was growing up. Now, they can make them state-specific. You can go into a travel shop and there'll be a state-specific Monopoly. Monopoly for kids, you know, different scenarios. Star Wars Monopoly. At the same time, every one of them abide by the same rules. Okay, otherwise, you know, why play it? Everybody understands the rules of Monopoly. Even though the board may look different, even though the hotels and the currency and the community chest and all of those things may look different, and there may be slight variations, you know, pertaining to the rules. But at the same time, there is a uniformity with regards to how Monopoly is played, okay? It is the same thing with the IDEA. You have the federal standard, and the federal standard is what I talk about all the time. So anytime that I'm saying check your state code, it is because the acronym might be different. The format of the document may look different. Those things are permitted. But every one of those things are also attached to a very defined rule that everybody has to follow, okay? And there's not just one road. Sorry, it's morning time and the sun. Tell you what, I'll go back this way one more time. So there's not one specific way to do things, all right? Even though the rule is the same, and there's going to be some uniformity. That is an important concept to understand. And I know you go, yeah, I got it. Okay, and I can't tell you how many times I've explained this and people don't get it. So when I'm explaining the law, that's what it is, okay? And that's not me being arrogant, guys. It's not really my problem in life, okay? I'm just giving you and providing you information, and because I do this all the time, and also I teach it in my Advocates University course in a unique, digestible way, so that it's a little bit simpler to understand and how everything interconnects, okay? So that's the reason I do that. But I don't want you to misinterpret that somehow what I'm inferring is that the law is different, where the law is not different. The law in Florida is going to be the same as it is in Colorado, the same as it is in Texas, California, everywhere else, because that's the baseline. Every state had to adopt the federal law into their state code, okay? And like I said, they were permitted some nuance differences. And that's it. So the last example that I'm going to give is, for example, the other day I was talking about autism as a category and the difference between that and the clinical diagnosis. And I was talking about related services within that video. Related services meaning speech language, OT, PT, and how many schools misinterpret that standard. And they will even train poorly that somehow you've got to meet some kind of discrepancy, or you've got to qualify for physical therapy, or you got to qualify for OT and speech language as a related service, not as a disability category, okay, as a related service, as something that your child is entitled to because they're qualified under specific learning disability, or they're qualified under autism or other health impairment, because a related service fits in, and the entire purpose is it relates over to help support and benefit the child in those educational performance deficit areas. Okay, what are the educational performance deficit areas? Academics, communication, social emotional development, and functional independent living skills. So the analysis, even though evaluative data may be used, and that's the other thing that you need to understand when it comes to the law, there is a big difference between words. Okay, I'm a wordsmith, I'm a lawyer, so language is very, very important to this process. And so when you see words in the law that says may, that means it's optional. That's not the only pathway. It's not the only way. And I think that a lot of schools are trained poorly and misinterpret that, grossly misinterpret may. Okay, the evaluative data for, let's say, speech language services as a related service may be based on evaluative data, may, okay, but that's not the only pathway. And so when I bring this stuff up, I'm not wrong in what I'm telling you guys, okay, because I'm basing it on the federal IDEA that all states have to use. And so when you guys provide comments and you say, well, in my school or in my state, you know, we do it this way, I do not doubt that at all, and I do not doubt what you're saying. What I am saying is that if your school is doing it that way and it's different than how I've explained it, unless I've said look in your state code for any small nuances, meaning it's going to be cosmetic and not substantive, meaning it's not going to differentiate from the federal law that much, then guys, it's not me, it's your school system, and they're not doing it right, or you haven't been trained correctly, okay? And this is why I have the page. So all of us understand that there is a fair amount of uniformity across the country, and we need that, okay? The more we know, the better our systems can be. Now, why do I think that a lot of schools misapply the related service standards with regards to speech language, counseling, PT, OT, all of those things? Because we don't have enough of them, okay? It's really not that complex. So they tighten, the analysis on the teams, and that's how they train their teams, because we don't have enough of these service professionals for the amount of need that exists in this country. Now, does that make it right? No, it doesn't make it right, okay? But it also doesn't make me wrong in the standard that I'm explaining to you guys, okay? Remember, IDEA applies to all 50 states. That is what I'm basing all of my responses on. And so now you know.